So in this video, we are going to take the motifs I made last time and bring them into the patterns that we're going to make. So we're going to make one of each type of pattern, a half drop, a repeat, a straight repeat, and a brick by row. Right? Uh, so let's review those really quick. These are the motifs that I made. Oops. There. And these are the different types of repeats, and this worksheet is also going to remind us how to leave space for our patterns and how to move our patterns around when we get to that step so we can make seamless patterns that fill in any holes or gaps that you would normally get by making a plain straight repeat. Okay, all of the steps that I use are laid out in this worksheet, which I'm going to link below. And you should be able to work your way through this, although this is a really simple pattern. Today we're going to apply it to more complex patterns. So I don't know which of these motifs I'm going to use in what, and I'm worried about like accidentally losing these motifs or anything. So I am actually going to copy them into a new document, and this is where we are going to make our patterns, and I'm going to try to make all of my patterns in this document. Which is going to involve adding new artboards. So in case you're unfamiliar, artboards are like the pages in Illustrator. So if we click on the artboard tool, we can choose new artboard up here. And what we can do is these will be like our final products. We're welcome to work on them while it's happening. We're gonna need a few of them, but I'll just leave it with 2 for right now, and we'll just focus on the first one. But that's how you make new artboards, so you can work on more than one pattern at a time. And then I think I'm going to do one with just the buildings, and one with the types of food that I drew, and I'm not sure where the wheel is going to come into play. It might be in the buildings one, and then I guess I might do another one with some combination, like maybe the wheel in one of the buildings and just like the green background or something. Let me start with the food one. I think this is just going to be a straight repeat. And with a straight repeat, when you're trying to make a seamless straight repeat, all you have to remember is that you need to leave room on the direct opposite side for your motifs, right? So in a straight repeat, the motifs line up directly across from each other. So that's where we need to add them back in to make sure that all of the overlapping is the way that we want it and everything. We can experiment and find out what the right size background square is for us, right? Because in the past videos, I've just like probably drawn a background square and guesstimated how big it should be and adjusted from there. But I think it might be beneficial if we bring this into pattern design first. So if your computer can handle this and can handle messing around in pattern design, that might be a good way. So we go to Objects, we select it all, and we go to Objects, Pattern, Make, and it just tells us it's added a swatch over there. And what we can do is we can get an idea of how much overlap we need there to be in the square. Like if I want this to be fully dense, with, my family calls these speck roaches. They're like um, ham and onion filled pastries. They're like one of the only Latvian things that we um, eat. All right, so it would be fun to have round numbers like 4 and 3. That would be awesome. 3 is got a little bit of a hole, so let's go to 2.5. That's fine. All right, 3, and we'll add in another pastry. But like the way that these overlap maybe isn't the way that I want them to overlap. You can change the overlap pattern in pattern design over here, but if I wanted this one to go under this and then this one to go over, there's no setting to make that, there's no way you can make that happen in pattern design, and that's why I encourage you to know and understand how to go through this process, which will always make your patterns work as intended. Okay, so we at 4 and 3 inches, I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to actually hit cancel, and this won't save this pattern because it can get confusing, all of these chips being in here. So I'm going to hit cancel, and it removed that chip from the swatches panel. I've adjusted my page so that the swatches panel is the only thing in this column, which I'm finding very satisfying and easy to understand. And I've changed it to the large thumbnail view so I can really see all the colors. And working from like this specific color palettes that we made, it's brought all these colors in here now without a folder because they just were brought in when we pasted these images in, but working from that color palette made sure that I only had the 8 colors required. So we are going to draw a square that's that size. You just click once with the rectangle tool, click, and we can type in 4 by 3. All right. It's really nice to have round numbers, but it isn't required. It just makes parts of the process easier, especially with half drops and straight repeats. Okay, so I'm going to arrange this. I'm going to try to make it so that only one side touches the square. I guess I am going to have to let this touch the square to avoid copying and pasting this guy. It won't be the end of the world though. Okay, and in the last video I probably mentioned how it's difficult when things touch the corner, but sometimes it's unavoidable essentially, so we are going to go over that now. Yeah, please watch the video how to make patterns in Illustrator, straight repeat, half drop. It's like the last video on the first week if you're at Mass Art. That goes into it, like we're gonna make we make simpler patterns in this one. This one is a little bit more complex patterns as a review, kind of, and more seamless patterns. So this is grouped. I'm going to ungroup it because I need to like use some of these shapes individually. So we are going to grab all of this and right click, transform, move. And we're making a straight repeat, so we need to move it directly because it's touching the right edge, we'll review our worksheet. Making a straight repeat because it's touching the right edge, it's getting moved directly across to the left edge the whole width, and it's not getting moved up or down at all. All right, we know the width is 4, so I'm going to choose right click, transform, move. You don't have to copy ahead of time. We're going to put in the correct numbers, and we'll eventually hit copy, so that's why we didn't need to copy, but it's good to check off preview after you've typed in the numbers to make sure you have the right direction. Yeah, so this went over to the right. Oh, hold on. That's why. We don't need to go vertically at all. I'm sorry. We're, like I said, we're just going to the left 4 inches. Yeah, so there it is over there. It's this tiny bump. I can't scroll over there right now, but it seems like I need to go negative 4 inches. To the left is negative and to the right is positive, which is pretty standard stuff. So perfect. We will hit OK. Let me make this a different color. Hold on. It was just getting a little bit confusing there what that line was. So we're going to do that to all, everything that's touching this side. We are going to select them all and hit copy. I do have to step backwards though because I forgot to hit copy. So we'll actually select everything over here. Selecting with a box right up to the line can work really well. And then right click, transform, move, -4. Okay, copy this time. Beautiful, now they're both there. So we're gonna do the same thing for the bottom, except that we wanted to make sure that things were like overlapping the way we wanted them to. So I wanted to bring, I think we have to keep these 3 in the buns in the same overlap as these 3, otherwise it won't work up, but we do have time to adjust how they overlap the other buns, right? So I can choose right click, arrange, bring to front. I lost this. Right click, arrange, bring to front. And then if we wanted this one to be behind but this one to be on front, like I said, we can just bring this one to the front again. But now these are in the same order as they are in the right. They're just overlapping with this guy. While this is selected, I'll move it over to the right. Right click, transform, move, +4. And copy. Beautiful, and it should be on top again over here. Okay, so that's all the shapes that touched the left and the right. So now we can do the top and the bottom. So select everything on the bottom, and we are going to right click, transform, move, and this time we know that the height is 3 inches. So we want to move it vertically 3 inches, and we need to have preview checked off to make sure, yeah, that it's not going down, because despite standard Euclidean geometry, positive is down for vertical in the move function of Illustrator. So we can hit -3 instead, negative is up, and we can hit copy. yeah, and then we can just adjust as long as we're keeping all of these in the same stack order, it's fine to like select them all and choose right click, arrange, send to back. Um, and then I said I was going to um, add a shape right there. And we can still do that. I guess I just have to choose one. That one's going to actually be right next to it. So I guess we'll choose this. That'll be like right here. You kind of always have to keep the pattern in mind. I guess we'll do this guy and we'll make him small. It's going to be behind everything. And now since this guy is on a corner, basically if it's anywhere near a corner, it probably needs to make an appearance in every corner. Like this guy maybe needs to make an appearance over here too. So let's start by, yeah, that's on 1, 2, 3 corners. And I think it is actually only in 3 quadrants. So I think this guy is probably all set, right? If there's like a quadrant up here and a quadrant over here. But let's select this and we'll move it around to the quadrants it needs to be touching. Right click, transform, move. All right, last one. So if you have preview checked off, it doesn't update until you kind of click out of it. So where I'm typing in -4, it doesn't move yet until I click into this one. All right, now we have all of these. Let's make our background. I just left this as a square, even though it was my intention to make it green. Choose the fill, make it green. Your background square should have no outline, and we'll choose right click, arrange, send to back. Now we need to make a clipping mask. A clipping mask or a bounding box in this case, I think, is a invisible square that tells your pattern where to end. It has to be the same size as your background square and be exactly where your background square is, but be at the back of the stack. So we are going to choose right click, we've chosen our background square and we're going to go to edit copy and edit paste in back. And then without deselecting, we need to remove the fill and the stroke from the pattern. Okay. If I move this right now, you wouldn't be able to see it at all because it's an invisible square. Okay. I've hit Control Z and now it's back exactly underneath the square, and it's probably the farthest back thing in the stack. We can double check that by selecting everything and going to layers, the layers panel, and then we can open up this layer, which is going to have so much stuff on it. But the bottommost thing selected, yes, should be a empty square. It's just like an empty rectangle where everything else is like an image of a pierogi or like a wheel. Okay, now we should be set up for success. If we didn't have that square, we would have big gaps in our pattern when we went to object define pattern, or sorry, object pattern make, and we can hit okay. Cool. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Sometimes you'll lose detail if like things are overlapping the wrong way. Like I've lost this rectangle, but I think I just need to bring it over here because it seems like this is the one, or I've lost this um, shading, I mean, this like speck roach shading. So if I bring it over here, it doesn't quite reach. If it doesn't reach the square, it won't show up on the like larger repeats, which I think is the problem that's happening here. So I'm just going to cheat and make it touch the square by like stretching it out. Bring to front. All right, maybe that was the problem. Hmm. Having a stacking issue here. Okay, so now all of them have their shading on them, and we are going to hit done. It's on that dark green background I wanted. Everything is overlapping the way that I wanted. I think it all looks great. So I'm going to hit done. And what we can do now is we can put this on a rectangle. So we can put it as the fill of a rectangle. Did it save it? Is that the pierogi pattern? I guess we'll find out. Don't delete your original designs because you might need to edit or change things. But there's the rectangle, fill is in the front. Yeah, and there's the speck roach pattern, weirdo pattern that I made. Texturally bizarre, but seamless. So let's make a half drop now. I might speed through some of the next steps um, and then just come back to you. So I determined that I want the rectangle to be 6 inches by 8 inches, but I had moved around my motifs in this pattern from the original motifs that I had outside of pattern edit mode or pattern design mode. So I am going to copy these motifs, and now I'm going to hit done. Um, and actually this pattern in here is like an accident. I could have hit cancel on it, but I'm glad that I didn't because then I wouldn't be able to delete these. I have backups and paste on the new arrangements that I liked after I had played with all of those scales and everything. And remember, you can scale to any size in Illustrator um, because you can, it's all made of vectors, because it's all made of vectors. Yeah, so that has, it's filled with a weird pattern, but I want the background to be green. Um, because there were some questions last week about how to do a background for a pattern, so like 2 layers of patterns together. I just want to address that. It's important to know the size of pattern that you are working with so that things line up in the end. You don't want a pattern you don't want to fill a pattern with this background if it would break the pattern and then the pattern wouldn't be seamless anymore, right? So they have to tile into each other or be proportional with each other. So where I made a 6x8 square, I just have to choose a size pattern for the background. If I want to do 2 layers of pattern, I have to choose a size pattern for the background that fits into 6x8. So I could do 3x2 or any combination therein. I think I'm just gonna do a tiny 2x2 pattern just of like some grassy texture, very quick. Okay, so this will be my pattern, and I'm just going to oops, I'm going to first off I'm going to copy these. So this is grouped, so if I double click into it, I can like still choose things individually, and if I am careful, I can then deselect the house, and now I only have the bushes. So I will copy those, Control C, and paste them out here. And maybe if we just play with those like being really small and textural and all over the place, and then I can add trees on top of it or whatever. Technically, I should make this seamless real quick, but it'll just be a straight repeat. So we just have to move, everything to the right. Just want to make sure I have everything. All right. Let's see how this looks. Oh, we need to add the background square. Sorry, not right click. Select the background square, edit copy, edit paste in back. Without deselecting, we can remove any fill and any stroke. So they should both have red slashes going through them. Then we select them, object pattern make. Cool, let's just try flipping it. Yeah, and then if we can, we'll just add a couple more circles right here. See how it does with that? Sometimes you can get away with drawing in pattern design and adding motifs, but sometimes it'll mess with your computer. All right, let's say done. And now we have this little thing over here. And theoretically, even though it's a super textural background, we would be able to like apply it to this square. And it should technically be seamless. Yeah, so I'm just going to draw like some trees in here and maybe some like more open grassy spaces. And then I will come back and make it into, do the half drop math with you. Okay, so I'm thinking this layout looks good. And what we can do now is actually make our bounding box our square that will tell the repeating pattern program where to stop the pattern and to like start tiling. So remember we copy and paste the background square, so edit copy and edit paste in back, puts it at the back of the stack, and then we can, before deselecting anything or clicking anywhere else, we can hit none. And now we should be able to bring it into the pattern design mode. I am not sure that it is going to allow us to bring this pattern in there. It might be more beneficial to add this after, but let's find out. So object pattern make. Yeah, so patterns cannot contain anything painted with a pattern. So if I were absolutely sure that this was always going to be printed at this exact size and that it wasn't going to change, what I could do is select this layer which has a pattern in it and go to Object Rasterize, which will turn it into pixels, which then means it won't be editable or scalable in the same way anymore, but you would be able to bring it into pattern design mode. But I think it's probably more durable of us to actually just not include this right now. So I'm just going to move it over here, and we are going to select everything. We still need this bounding box square, but we'll select everything else and bring it into pattern design mode. I actually have forgotten though to copy and paste the stuff that's touching the edge of the box. So we will do that. That's the math. That's the hard part. So with anything that is touching the sides in a half drop, that's where the math gets complicated. The top in a half drop is standard, okay? So a brick by column. The top is just like the straight repeat where the motifs move exactly directly across. The sides, anything touching the sides is where things move vertically and horizontally. So they'll move in the X and the Y direction for the first time in this lesson. So back to Illustrator. We are going to try to adjust this background actually so that everything is only touching one side of the square. And that's really the easiest. Or everything is at least only touching two edges of the square. Okay, so something like this. Because this piece is touching like this whole quadrant, right? There's like if we draw like a line down here and a line across here, I'm going to Control Z on those, but you get the idea that it's in all of the corners. Then it needs to make an appearance on all of the corners here. So let me give myself some more room. Okay, so we're going to select everything on this side. Right click, transform, move, and everything on the right moves the full width across. Okay, so that's this step, moves horizontally 1 W, the whole width across, and then it moves vertically 1/2 of the height. And this is again the width and the height of the background square. So my background square is 6 by 8 inches, so it has to move horizontally 6 inches, and I believe that's going to be -6 because it's moving to the left. And then it has to move honestly, potentially up and down. I think it's going to have to move in both directions, everything on this side. Yeah. 4 inches, and that's because 4 is half of 8, which is the height of our background square. Okay, so we're going to hit copy here. And then, yeah, we're just going to select everything on the bottom now. I'll move this up to the top as a backup pattern. Always save your original tiles. We're going to choose everything down here. Okay. And move it straight up. 0, and then vertically, I think -8 inches because negative is up in Illustrator for whatever reason. Beautiful. All right, and then we hit copy. Right, so now all the motifs are there, and what we can do is make sure that everything is stacking the way that we expect it to. So like, I definitely want these trees to be in front of this grassy bit. So I'm going to choose pretty much all the other motifs and choose right click, arrange, bring to front. Yeah, and that also fixed that overlapping problem. And oh, let's include these trees. Cool. Should this one be in front, in front? That looks nice. All right. I'm now ready to bring it into pattern design mode, but again, it's not going to let me include this pattern right now, so let's move that off to the side. What is still there is my square. It's just a little hard to tell. Yeah, it is. There it is. My invisible square, that's my bounding box. And if you don't bring it in, you're going to have all sorts of extra space in your pattern. So we have to include that. And now we can go to Objects, Pattern, Make, and see it updated the width to 6 by 8 instantaneously. And it's added the new pattern over here. We can hit OK. Oh, and just as soon as I brought it in here, I noticed that these clouds are no longer like overlapping that grass in the way that I wanted them to. It's a lot easier to do this outside of pattern design mode. Everything takes longer inside pattern design mode. And it doesn't look right now because we haven't told it that it is a brick by column that we designed. So there we go. Let's zoom out a little bit, get a taste for it. I think it looks great. It's going to look especially great with that textured background. And hit done. And now we've made a transparent pattern. So let's move all of our stuff out of the way again. Always save this stuff, even though it looks cluttered. The only thing that's going to print is the down here. Even if you have to like move them into a new file and save them separately and then delete them in here, that would be fine. Yeah, so let's all right, when I scaled it that time, the pattern got bigger, and that isn't what we want. We want the pattern to be the size that we drew it at least for right now. So I'm actually going to delete that one and draw a new square and apply it to the new square. That's like the most effective way to make sure that it's exactly what you drew it at. And this pattern has a stripe, but it's never going to be viewed on its own. It's just going to be viewed with this new pattern over it. So let's draw a, or I guess I'll just copy and paste this square. So there's the new square, and we're going to apply our new pattern to it. And something isn't overlapping right in the pattern, which is okay. We can fix that. Yeah, that looks kind of interesting, honestly. So let's fix that little overlapping problem. If we double click on the pattern, we can edit it at any time. And all I think I need to do is adjust which side is overlapping which side over here. There we go. Now it's in the background. Lovely. And we can say done. Oh, so perfect. All right. So I'm going to make the last pattern, which is going to be a brick by row, and I will come back when I am at the section where we move around the pieces again. Okay, so I adjusted the size in the pattern design mode as kind of like a preview to get it the size that I wanted. And then I made a square that size. So the square is 2.5 by 3 inches. Um, and if we review uh, our cheat sheet, we're making a brick by row. So anything that touches the top edge is going to get moved vertically and horizontally. Vertically the whole height, and then horizontally 1/2 of the width. Um, so right now we only have things touching the um, right now we only have things touching the top. So I'm going to select them and I'm going to copy them down and to the left and right. And we might have to copy them again. Just it's just how it tends to be with half drops and bricks is that you end up copying the same motif a couple times to get them into all the spaces you need and to make sure that all of your overlaps are going to be the way that you want them to be. Right? I definitely want some of the grain going over this wheel. Okay, so right click, transform, move, and uh, we are going to move it the whole height down, so the whole 3 inches down, and then our whole width is 2.5, so we are only going to move it 1.5 inches over, and we will hit copy. And now what we can kind of say is like, oh, okay, because this is touching the edge, like let's just use that same logic and move it over the whole width, right? And that's what we would do with anything that's touching the edge in a brick by row is it gets moved over the whole width. So right click, transform, move, and we just want to move it horizontally the whole width. Oh, I see. I've actually made a mistake. I'm going to hit when I moved this one, I typed in the wrong number. I'm sorry. So horizontal 1.25. That matters. It all matters. The math does matter. Um, all right, and then I'm trying to decide if I want this to be anywhere else. Because I haven't copied and pasted the wheel, I still have the luxury of being able to move and adjust the wheel as long as I don't now make it touch the edge. So if I want it to be like touching, oops, don't want to do that. if I want it to be touching more of the wheat or something, I can adjust still. I actually like its original spot. I just wanted to mention that. Um, I think I've copied and pasted this enough. I'm like a little paranoid that we need another one up here and over here, but let's try it. So I'm gonna make the bounding box background square. So um, edit copy, edit paste in back, and then without deselecting, make sure you remove the fill and the stroke. And let's try selecting everything. And this should let us know when we go to Object Pattern Make, we will be able to see if we've made any mistakes and adjust from there. Just have to tell it that we made a brick by row. Okay, so what we're looking for is like, is anything getting cut off? And actually something is getting cut off right here. So we're gonna have to hit cancel and do a little bit more copying and pasting, I think. Oh, maybe it was just the overlapping. That overlapping looks good. All right, I think it's done then. Yeah, so always be sure to check the overlapping to make sure that it's set up the way that you want it. It's just like which side of the image overlaps the other side. Um, always save your tiles, your original tiles, just in case. And then let's draw a square. Amazing. So, if there's anything we don't like about these, like if I am second guessing that pink background, I can double click on the pattern and just, change the background square color. But we are going to talk about the colorways that you have to make for this project, or textile design colorways in general, next video. Okay, so be sure to check that one out too. And we're also going to talk about saving your files as PDFs again. Bye! Watch the next video to learn how to do your colorways. Bye!